Hi Booklovers, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is gonna be a TBR-ish kind of video. I wanted to talk about some book series that I've started reading and loving and want to finish this year. I'm a big series reader. Like if I discover a new favorite series, I want to do nothing but read that series. But I have so many incomplete series that I wanted to narrow down my list to the series that I want to focus on and finish in 2022. Before I get into my list though, I do want to share the sponsor for today's video. A big thank you to Remarkable for sponsoring this video. If you are a big note taker but want the convenience of a tablet, of a paper tablet, then the Remarkable 2 tablet is for you. It's the only tablet that feels like real paper and it's perfect to replace your notebooks and your printed documents. It's a paper tablet, so you can use it for work, you can use it to take some notes on, to journal, literally anything that you want to write down, you can use the Remarkable 2, and you can keep all distractions away, unlike if you were using your phone or your laptop. My Remarkable 2 tablet came with this leather case, which is sold separately. It is super easy to attach because it is magnetic, so that's all you do. So far I've been using the tablet for work and YouTube. Like I keep it in my office so I can take notes whenever I'm in some virtual meetings. I've been using the checklist template so far because there's these little boxes that you can check off whenever a task is complete, and there's also a deadline section, but there are a bunch of different styles that you can turn your pages into. It's also been super helpful for me for YouTube just to keep a list of video ideas that I have, dates that I want to post certain videos on, and also just keeping track of my TBR for different kinds of videos. So I've been loving my Remarkable 2 tablet. I love feeling organized with this, and it's so simple and sleek and easy. Like I literally just grab it, write something down, and it's saved right there. I don't use physical notebooks anymore, and this is the perfect substitute. It's a great space for work and also coming up with new video ideas. So if you want to feel organized with a handy tablet that feels like real paper, the Remarkable 2 is for you. It's perfect for jotting things down. There's the amazing paper feel to it. There's no distractions if you want to use it. Like you can't go on Instagram or YouTube when you use it, which is great when you need some concentration time. I've really been enjoying using the tablet. I've been using it for a couple weeks now and I still haven't needed to charge it yet. You can purchase your own Remarkable 2 tablet using the link in my description. Mine comes with this separate leather case. It's sold separately, but I do highly recommend it. And a big thank you again to Remarkable for sponsoring this video. And now back to my video. So here's my list of book series that I've started reading and loving but haven't finished quite yet. I want to try to complete them this year. Like some of them, their final books are actually coming out, and some of them have been completed years ago and I just need to get to them. As always, let me know if you read any of these and let's just jump into it. First on my list is the All the Pretty Monsters series by Kristy Cunning. I read book 1 last year for Paranormal Romance Readathon. It was after I read the Dark Side series by Kristy Cunning and I fell in love with her and I wanted to read more of her reverse harem romances, and this is her only other series that she wrote under Kristy Cunning. It's a 6-book series, so it's even longer than the Dark Side series, which I loved so much. Book 1 is the only one that I've read so far, Gypsy Blood, and it was a really good start to the series. It's like a good intro to this world, to the heroine and her 4 guys. The premise is great though. We have a heroine who is able to see ghosts. She is a gypsy and her whole family has magic powers. But the thing is, she grew up isolated with her mom, so she has no idea that monsters besides herself exist in her world, but they very much do. She moves to the small town where her mother died in to take over her mom's business, and that's where she discovers that there are vampires, there's werewolves, there's a bunch of paranormal creatures living there. So this first book, Gypsy Blood, it introduces us to Violet, to her ghost best friend who is very, very over the top, to our 4 guys. They're like the leaders of their monster creature family, and I really, really like this first book. Like I saw so much potential for the series. The romance is barely there though, I will say. So I'm gonna assume that it's kind of like the Dark Side series where the romance builds with each book, and it's a pretty long series, 6 books, so hopefully we don't have to wait too long for the romance or for the steam to pick up. So I'm definitely gonna try to read the rest of the series, the next 5 books. I don't know if I'll be able to binge them back to back like I did for the Dark Side series, but maybe if I become insanely obsessed, that might still happen. But yeah, yeah, I do really love Kristy Cunning's writing. Like, her sense of humor is great. I was so sad to hear of her passing, but I'm pretty thankful that I still have so many books of hers to read. I'm also gonna try to finish up the Arcana Chronicles by Kresley. I mean, I randomly bought myself the 4th book in the series, even though I only own book 1, and it's like a completely different edition. And I don't even own books 2 or 3, but I will eventually get them because I do want to match the whole series to this cover and to this size. I have been loving the series so freaking much, and I shouldn't be surprised because it's Kresley Cole and she's one of my top favorite authors of all time, but I still am surprised because the series is young adult and I don't read YA anymore. But the series has been amazing. Book 1 is definitely the most YA of the series because it is set in high school, but then the apocalypse hits and there's no high school anymore. These characters have to grow up, they have to deal with death, with zombies, with survival. So far I've read the first 3 books, 5 of them are out, and the 6th and last book is coming out this summer. Book 1, Poison Princess, was actually a really good start to the series. Like, I really enjoyed it. I love the concept of the series. Like, this first book is a setup for this apocalyptic world and a setup for the romance. In book 1 we have the heroine's like regular high school life before the apocalypse, and then we also have the present day chapters where the heroine and like the rest of the characters are dealing with the apocalypse. Evie, who always thought she was just a regular girl, it turns out that she's not exactly the human that she thought she was. This whole fantasy world is based off of tarot cards, and Evie is based off the Empress, and each of the big secondary characters is based off of all the other tarot cards. There is a romance that starts in book 1, but it kind of changes itself into a love triangle, which I am obsessed with because I literally love both of the guys and could not choose between the 2 of them. So the series has been amazing so far. Like, each book has gotten better and better for me. Book 3 was absolutely amazing because that's where the love triangle finally solidifies, but it's been a great series so far. I'm a little sad that the books after book 3 don't have audiobooks because that's how I read the series, and the audiobooks have been fantastic, but it's because the first 3 books were published with a traditional publisher and then Kresley Cole indie published the rest of the series. So my plans are to try to catch up on the rest of the series before book 6 releases. We still don't have a release date for it, but it is supposed to be out this summer. So I have 2 more full-length books to read. I think there's like 1 or 2 novellas, so I'm gonna try to space them out in the next few months and also try to collect myself the paperbacks. But I do highly recommend reading the Arcana Chronicles if you love Kresley Cole. Even if you've only read her adult books, which was my situation, I ended up loving this, and I feel like a lot of people will too. Even if you've only read her adult books or like her erotic romances, this series is still really great with an amazing romance. Although of course if you don't like love triangles, it might not be for you, but I would still give this a try. Another series that I 100% need to finish up is the Hoop series by Kennedy Ryan. I recently read book 2, Blockshot, and loved it. It's one of my favorites of 2022. I mean, I love Kennedy Ryan in general, but this one blew my mind. I was obsessed. So I definitely need to read books 1 and 3 now. Book 1 is Longshot and book 3 is Hookshot. I'm pretty sure this is one of the last few series that I need to read from Kennedy Ryan before I'm completely caught up on her backlist. So I might be taking it slow just because I don't want to run out of Kennedy Ryan books to read. I mean, anytime I read a Kennedy Ryan book, it instantly becomes like a top favorite of that year. Her writing is phenomenal. It's so beautiful. Her romances are beautiful. I am ashamed I read the series completely out of order, but I will say I did try to read book 1 many years ago when it first came out, but I just was not in the mood to read about domestic abuse. Her books, even though her romances are so sweet, sometimes her content can get very real and intense, and I just was not ready for Longshot. And I feel like I'll end up reading Hookshot before I ever go back and finish up Longshot. I probably will though, just because in book 2 and Blockshot, this third couple was teased there, and I was loving their tension and chemistry. But it is a sports romance series, an adult sports romance series. Books 1 and 3, the heroes are pro basketball players, and then the main characters in book 2 are their sports agents. If you haven't read Blockshot yet, I highly recommend it. Like, Jared, the hero, was everything I wanted in an alpha obsessed hero. Yes, there is cheating because the heroine is in a relationship with a man she doesn't actually love but still cares about, but Jared and Banner were just everything in this book. Another series where the final book is also coming out this year is the Twisted series by Anna Huang. It's a 4-book series, and the 4th book, Twisted Lies, is supposed to come out in summer, I believe, sometime this year for sure at least. But these are the first 3 books, and I know there are alternate covers for these, but I actually way prefer the guys on the covers here. Books 1 and 3 are my favorites so far. They're both like enemies to lovers. They're both like a version of brother's best friend and a best friend's brother. All 4 books are about this group of girl best friends who meet in college, I believe. One of them is an actual princess, but Twisted Lies is the book that many people have been waiting for ever since book 2 because the couple for the 4th book were first teased there. Twisted Lies is Stella and Christian's romance, and there was a little something between them in book 2, or at least there was something from Christian, who instantly becomes obsessed with her as soon as he meets her. We love a good obsessed alpha hero here, and all 3 guys so far in this series are all exactly that, so I have very high hopes for Christian. I have 2 historical romance series on this list. This first one is by my historical romance queen of angst, and that is Sherry Thomas and her London trilogy. I read book 1, The Luckiest Lady in London, and it was so good. It's such an amazing friends to lovers marriage of convenience romance. The other 2 books in the series also have a marriage of convenience, and I'm pretty sure that's like the one common link between all 3 of these books. All 3 books are about different couples, and I'm not exactly sure if they're friends or they're related. It doesn't really sound like they are, but hey, it's still part of the same series. And I do love Sherry Thomas's writing and her storytelling. Like, the thing about her historical romances is that she takes a lot of these common and popular tropes and kind of twists them and makes them super unique in her stories. Like, even though in book 1 there's a marriage of convenience, like, these characters were so unique and special with how smart and intelligent they were, the wit and banter between them. It was so fantastic to read. So that's one of the main reasons why I love Sherry Thomas so much. And also, she writes angst through the roof. Like, sometimes when I read her books, it makes me ache and hurt physically because there's that much angst and heartache. But yeah, I am excited to read the rest of the series. In His at Night, the hero is a secret agent for the government, and then he's forced into a marriage of convenience against his will. In Private Arrangements, the main characters, they were forced into a marriage of convenience like a decade ago because they were caught in a compromising position that the heroine kind of schemed, and the hero found out about it and, you know, got betrayed over it. So the married couple haven't seen each other in 10 years since they first got married, and now the wife wants to be free to marry again. And the other historical romance series on this list is the Sinful Wallflower series by Stacey Reid. Books 1 and 2 were fantastic, and then book 3, I mean, I'm honestly not entirely sure this is the 3rd and final book, but I'm just gonna assume it is because she's already writing like a completely different series now. The first 2 books in the Sinful Wallflower series were fantastic. If you need some steam in your historical romances, you need to read Stacey Reid because her historical romances are fantastically steamy. They get super intense and emotional and angsty. I love her books. Her Wicked Marquis, which is book 2 in the series, is my favorite so far, but I have very high hopes for this 3rd book, A Scoundrel of Her Own. I am a little sad though that the books don't match in size. Like, the 3rd book is that awkward mass market max paperback size, so it's both wider and slightly taller than the regular mass market, and these 3 books don't match anymore, so that is a little annoying. But I will say the covers for the series are gorgeous. We just don't get enough clinch covers on historical romances these days, so Stacey Reid is giving us exactly what we want. The series is pretty similar in concept to the Wallflower series by Lisa Kleypas, where we have a group of heroines who become friends because of their wallflowerness, and they all help each other to not become wallflowers anymore. But the thing about the series is that the way that these heroines exit the wallflowerhood, or whatever you call it, is that they create these huge scandals for themselves. Like the first book, the heroine pretends to be engaged to this mysterious duke. He's this super reclusive and scarred duke who never goes out into society, so she never expects him to find out about this lie of hers, but then of course he does. In book 2, the heroine heroine ruins her reputation so that she can get out of this awful marriage that she doesn't want. There's this gossip that involves the hero climbing out of some woman's window, bedroom window, and the heroine claims that it is her own window in order to ruin her reputation. Book 3 is a book that I've been waiting so long for because there was a little scene in book 2, I believe, that kind of showed the tension between these two main characters. The hero is this powerful figure in the darker side of London, and the heroine is the daughter of a marquis. She's like the darling of the ton, but she moonlights as a songstress for this hero. She's under her protection and everything, and I do have a feeling that this hero is quite obsessed with her. So it's been a while since the last time I read a Stacey Reid book, and I have missed her romances. Her books just have so many feels and so much steam. I love them. The Hidden Legacy series is also on my list. I love the Hidden Legacy series so much. Ilona Andrews is one of my favorite authors of all time. The series is a little weird when it comes to the romance because the first 3 books have their own separate romance, and then the next 3 books, books 4 through 6, are about a younger sister's romance, and the third and final book in the second sister's story is finally coming out this year. It got pushed back a couple years, which was so sad. But Ruby Fever is finally coming out later in 2022, and I cannot wait. It's one of my most anticipated reads of the year, one of my most anticipated sequels of the year. It's Catalina and Alessandra's final book, which is why I'm including it in this list, even though I feel like we might get another 3 books for the youngest sister's story. I mean, I really hope Ilona Andrews does Arabella's romance because I love her character so much. And also, I could just read like a million books set in this world, so I'm gonna try to will that into reality. But yeah, Ruby Fever, book 6 in the series, the third and final book for Catalina. I would highly recommend reading this series from book 1, even though it's about a different sister about Nevada. But if you wanted to read just Catalina and Alessandro, you can start with Sapphire Flames. It's a fantastic world though. Like, once you read it, you get sucked in so easily. There's all these cool magic powers, these houses, these bad guys who want to try to destroy their city, destroy the world, and then of course this family stops them. The romances in these books though are pretty slow burn, like things don't really develop until midway through book 2, but it's still so worth it because these heroes are completely gone for their heroines. There's just so many good things about this series. Like, if you love romance and action and fantasy and magic, it's got a great sense of humor. Like, this series has everything that I love in my books, and I mean, I'm already such a huge fan of Ilona Andrews anyway, so this is an easy love for me. But I do highly recommend it, and I cannot wait for Ruby Fever. The Dark Court Rising series by Beck McMaster is also another series I want to finish up this year. It's a 3-book series, and the third and final book has finally just released. I do own the first 2 books in paperback because the covers are so pretty, and I will eventually get to getting the 3rd book. I've only read book 1 in the series so far, which is Promise of Darkness, which is a very loose retelling of Hades and Persephone. It's a fantasy romance with fae and kingdoms and courts. It definitely has a Court of Thorns and Roses vibes, which I'm not mad about. I love this first book though. It's one of my favorite fantasy romances, but I told myself that I would wait until the series was complete before I finish up the rest of the series. So now that Curse of Darkness is out, I think it came out in March because it got pushed back a little bit, but yeah, now that it's out, I can finally binge the rest of the series. There is a novella too. I think it's told in the hero's point of view, but it's such a good romance. I mean, it's a second chance romance, so obviously I had to read it, but yeah, it gets super angsty and emotional. There's amnesia involved. It's like enemies to lovers. It's so great, and I think it's super underrated. I'm gonna include the Souls trilogy by Harley LaRue on my list, even though I'm not 100% sure that the 3rd and final book is coming out this year. I mean, I think it is. I feel like it should be, but there still hasn't been like a release date announcement just yet. This first book, Her Soul to Take, was amazing though. It's like a demon monster romance. It gets dark and creepy and actiony, and there's some good gothic vibes to it. The whole series is set in this small town that is just ripe with magic and monsters. It's like the place where this evil god resides, and this god wants to resurrect itself so that it can take over the world. The heroes in the series are all demons, and they all have some interesting anatomy going on, but the 3rd book, it's got a hero who is like a prince level kind of demon, and I am so intrigued by him and his heroine. There were some fantastic teases for this 3rd couple in the 1st and 2nd book. I just know that I'm gonna love this 3rd book the most because I just love the dynamic between them. The heroine's like this witch the hero is this powerful prince demon, and he is just absolutely gone for her. He is so protective over her and would do anything for her, but it's not necessarily in this sweet way. It's more like he wants to possess her and everything, like literally possess her and her soul. But I still love this dynamic because of how protective he was in the first and second book. So hopefully we do get the third book out this year. I don't even think there's a title for it just yet. No title, no cover, no blurb, no release date. But book 2 did release last year, so I feel like we're due book 3 sometime in 2022. Another series that I love and I really need to finish up is the Family series by Katrina Jackson. This is a mafia romance series. It's one of the few non-paranormal or fantasy romance series on this list. I read the first novella and the first full-length book, and they were so good. It was my first time reading Katrina Jackson, and I really liked her writing in those books. Like, it's super fresh and fun for a mafia romance. The series is about 3 different couples. We have the mafia boss and 2 of his subordinates. The mafia boss gets his romance in the prequel, the first novella, and that one, they don't even have a happily ever after in that prequel because their romance is kind of teased throughout the series, and then they finally get their full-length book in the final book. I've been waiting for their full-length book to finally release before continuing with the rest of the series, and I only just found out that it came out. But I love the romance in the prequel. Like, she's an American who takes a trip to Italy with her boyfriend, but then ends up ditching him because she finds out that she's better off without him. She meets a mafia boss. Of course, she doesn't realize he's a mafia boss, but she meets him in his restaurant and they form this instant connection. It ends with her going back home and going back home with a surprise, so no happily ever after for them yet, at least not until the third full-length book. And then the first full-length book that I read was about one of the subordinates romances. I really like that one too, just not quite as much as the boss's romance, but still the romances are great if you love like light-hearted mafia romances, like mafia romances that aren't too dark or too violent or anything. There's still some action involved, but it's definitely more focused on the romance. So I have 2 more full-length books and 2 more novellas in this series to catch up on. I'm not quite in the mafia romance mood right now though. Like, this craving for mafia, it always comes and goes. But Katrina Jackson has been super easy and fun to read so far, so I have no doubt that I'll enjoy the rest of the series. And then the final series on this list before I talk about 2 bonus series is the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series by Peckham and Susanne Valenti. I did not expect to enjoy the series as much as I did. I read book 1 and it actually was so much fun to read. I had no idea what to expect with this series. Like, I've heard so many conflicting feelings about the Zodiac Academy series, which is one of their more popular series, but I wanted to try this one mainly because it's reverse harem, and I am such a sucker for reverse harem. It's set in this college academy where the heroine kind of tricks her way into so she can try to figure out who killed her brother. She's a vampire and she has 4 heroes. There's a lion shifter, a dragon shifter, a basilisk, and a harpy. It's a pretty interesting world. Like, there's a bunch of different monsters, there's a bunch of magic involved. These guys are involved in different gangs and they're the leaders of their families. I've only read book 1 so far, but I did get super invested, so I am definitely gonna read the rest of the series. There are 5 books, so I have 4 more books to read, and they are all pretty long, but I did like the first book enough that I bought myself a special edition of this set, so hopefully the series is worth the money. But the characters are great. I'm genuinely rooting for this heroine, and the 4 heroes, they're all kind of dorks in their own cute way. Like, they get jealous over each other for the heroine, and they all try to kind of prove themselves to her, and then she's like, wow, I don't want to get involved with any of you, even though I'm definitely lusting after all of you. So book 1 was great. I'm for sure gonna try to read the rest of the series. These last 2 series I can't really count as series that I love and want to continue because I haven't read them yet, but I've read these 2 authors' previous series and I've loved them, so I know I'm gonna read and love these 2 series too. It's the St. View Psycho series by Elle Thorpe and the Guild series by Tate James. St. View Psychos is like a spin-off of the St. View High and St. View Prison series, which I recently read and binged and grew obsessed with. This new spin-off hasn't even come out yet. Like, the first book, it's out in a month or 2, but I got so excited when I heard that St. View Psychos was going to exist because it's about a secondary character who showed up in the St. View Prison series. It's a Vincent story, it's another reverse harem romance, and I am so excited. Vincent was a fellow prison of one of the heroes, and he is genuinely a psycho. He's a murderer and everything, but he's got his own code, and he did take care of the main characters in St. View prison. So I was so happy when I found out that he was getting his own romance. And then for The Guild by Tate James, this is a spin-off of the Madison Kate series and the Hades series, both of which I've read and loved. The first 2 books in the series are already out, and the third and final book is supposed to come out in a couple months, which is why I've been waiting for that one to release before finally starting the series, which is what I did with the Hades series. It's a little different though. It's not reverse harem because it's only 2 guys, so it's MFM. But the series is about the Guild, which is this top secret company that was kind of talked about in the Madison Kate and Hades series. It's Tate James though, so I know I'm gonna love it. That's about it though for this list. Let me know your thoughts if you've read any of these books or if you're planning on reading them. As always, links to all the books that I mentioned will be down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!